So everybody is loving Hollow Knight Silksong except for one thing, it's the difficulty. And I've never seen so many people so frustrated with the game's base difficulty, it's insane. People are already making mods where they're limiting the amount of damage that certain enemies do and just trying to make the game a lot easier because people are getting obliterated by some of the stuff in this game. Now, I'm about 25 hours into this game. I got to the final boss, I have not completed it yet, but I have done a lot with this game. I still have a lot more to do, but I've seen pretty much every major location and done a lot of the side quests and stuff, unlocked most of the moveset potential that Hornet has in this game, so I'm able to really see what this game's difficulty is like so far. Now let me see if I can answer the question, is this game too hard? Well, I just got done playing through the first game, Hollow Knight, and overall, I didn't feel like the main game was that hard. It was some of the earlier bosses when you didn't have a lot of heal or moveset or even lives, where I would constantly die, but yeah, it was only like a handful of bosses that really gave me an issue. None of the actual terrain or worlds or platforming really was that difficult, besides some really hard platforming at the very, very end of the true ending, which was in that white palace. But besides that, it was all DLC bosses and like the boss gauntlet at the very end with that DLC. But no, the main game wasn't that bad. If anything, the difficulty just came into being lost. Like, where do I go? I'm just in the middle of nowhere and I have no clue what my objectives are. But no, Silksong's difficulty comes in a different way. I'm not going to show any middle or even late game bosses, but I'll show a couple areas and some of the earlier bosses to kind of describe some of my points. But Silksong's bosses really weren't that difficult. Like, not too bad at all compared to the stuff that I went through in Hollow Knight. I feel like Hornet's new improved moveset and the stuff that she can do did make things a lot easier to me. However, I will say in all, this game starts off way too difficult for the beginning of the game. I mean, for someone that's just trying to learn the game and experience this for the first time, I mean, they throw you in a gauntlet. It's like they know that you played the first game, or at least expect that you played the first game, because they just throw you into some incredibly difficult situations. This is one of the first boss battles in the game. I'm sure you've seen it online, but Beastfly is a menace because it puts you in this tight room full of like 4 minions and one big boss that's rushing you the entire time. This was my most deaths, I think, out of the entire game in any spot or any boss battle, and I'm at the very end of the game and have not completed the final boss. That's the only part I'm at right now, and I have not died as much as I had to Beastfly. But no, I don't even think it's the bosses of this game that makes it so difficult, because once again, there's about a handful of bosses that I thought were pretty tough, but none of them really stumped me. I think the hardest part about this game is just the basic enemies. There's literally like 30 trap rooms that you'll enter where they'll spawn tons of weak and even stronger enemies, and sometimes multiple of them at once. Take Biowater, for example. I won't show the boss battle even though it's been seen in a trailer clip already, but for the most part, you gotta trek all the way up to the swamp area, and there's so much that can deal damage to you. Tons of enemy spawns, water that prevents healing if you step in it, and then a final boss battle after all of this. And if you die, you have to trek so far to get back. And let me tell you, that's only after finding this secret bench that's a little bit closer, where 90% of people on the internet haven't even found that bench. So they have to take a journey through the entirety of Biowater just to get back to this boss arena, defeat all the enemies, and try to defeat the boss again. And it's not just the enemies in this game, it's the actual stages, which is something that I really never had an issue with the first game. Some of these worlds are absolutely brutal, man. Still, staying in Biowater, this place is the worst place I have ever been in a video game. If you step into the water at all, I kind of touched on this earlier, but let me truly explain how this works. You will get grubs eating away at your silk meter, which is the only way to use special attacks and to heal yourself. If it does this, you have to quickly fill your meter by hitting enemies as it's still degrading, and hurry up and heal, which doesn't even heal you, it just gets rid of the grubs. But now that your silk is depleted, you have to re-hit enemies all over again just to be able to heal now. Now imagine that water all over the entire world in every single enemy chamber and boss battle. It's just the worst. And remember the White Palace or Path of Pain from Hollow Knight at the end of the special ending? Imagine that, but scattered in all of these worlds. There's so many moments where you have to do some extreme platforming. I don't think it's anything that hard as like the Path of Pain, for example, but the fact that a lot of this stuff is just base game that you have to do is crazy. There's so many tricks and flips, and with Hornet's new arsenal of moves, it just makes this game insane. Here's a world called Mount Fae, where pretty much you'll freeze to death if you spend too much time away from fire. And you have to do extreme platforming from one fire section to the next. And sometimes it's literally like if you're a second off, you'll start freezing to death and losing lives. It requires almost perfection with 2D platforming, which is something that I love, but I can see so many people having issues with this. Or take this path, where you have to hit an orb in order to create your own path out of tunnels and all the way back up to the top side of this world. And it's like ongoing for like 10 minutes of just one constant platforming challenge. So yeah, honestly, this game can be very difficult outside of the bosses, which is strange because honestly, I wish the bosses were a little bit more difficult. There were a lot of bosses in the first game that took me almost 2 hours to complete, and I haven't found that yet, even with some of the secret bosses here. And I feel like the reason might be because it's a lot easier to heal in this game. You don't have to stand still and hold the A button. You can pretty much go wherever, and you can make the healing really quick with some of the extra attachments that you can put on Hornet. But yeah, overall, this game is difficult, and I don't see how in the world a lot of people are going to finish this game. So many people online are complaining about Beastfly, and I'm just sitting there shaking my head like, just wait till you get to Biowater. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I feel like if I have one major complaint that needs to change with this game is its bench placement. There's so many benches in this game that are just so far away from the boss rooms, and there's so little of them. Like, some of the areas only have like 1 or 2 benches, and they're so far away from anything of importance. They're like at the very beginning or very end of that world, which doesn't really help all that much. And also, you gotta pay for every single bench. But it didn't happen too often, but sometimes I found myself with not enough money to heal, or I had to, plan my money, wisely. Should I buy a map or should I buy a bench? You know what I mean? It was just kind of difficult because of that. So I would change the way the benches work. They should just be free, and they shouldn't hide so many of them. So many of them are secret and hidden, and I just don't understand that. But honestly, I'm not complaining. I really, really like this. I love the difficulty change and actually making me have to work for my progression and stuff. It feels really cool. I love the platforming in this game. I love the more emphasis on platforming. I know some people might be thrown off because I will say this game feels so incredibly different than the first game. It does. I mean, I was not a fan of the first game, where it's just more based on exploration and figuring out where to go and uncovering secrets, and of course the occasional boss battle, where this time I feel like it's a huge emphasis on platforming and fighting. Like, the fighting feels so much more at the forefront here. But yeah, I'm not complaining. I love the difficulty, but I know a lot of people online hate it. But let me know in the comments down below, have you been playing Silksong at all, and is the game too difficult for you? Let me know what is the hardest part that you've come across so far. I'm very curious to hearing from your guys' playthroughs, but make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more things Silksong and anything Nintendo. And like always, I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.